Seth Quealy here from Mental Edge Sports, talking with Dustin Smith from Velocity Sports Performance and the XSI Factory. Dustin, just wanted to ask you today, you talked a little bit about, you train athletes from all levels up to the elite level, and I just want to talk to you about, in your opinion, what does it take, what are the parts of becoming your best, maximizing your potential?
I think that the key element that all athletes have to have, and in my opinion, is the ability to recognize when mediocrity is setting in and recognize that before it's too late and get out of it. That trap of mediocrity just eats kids up at all levels. At some point, just making the team or just playing, if that's all you're shooting for, that's all you're going to get. And if being mediocre is all you want, so when it relates into mental skills and mental focus and all that sort of thing, is that once you've realized, hey, I got more in the tank, I got more to offer, usually that's the point you realize the importance of mental skills and being tough mentally. There's only so much you can do physically, and there's a lot of gifted kids that we'll see come through here that have, they run a 4.3 or they can bench press 300 pounds or whatever, but mentally they haven't turned that corner. And being mediocre and the fact that I'm tagged as a kid who runs fast or I'm tagged as a kid who jumps high is enough. And that might be to get you through junior high or high school, but when you're talking about moving on to play college or pro sports, realizing that, hey, I'm just being mediocre, just being another fast kid or just another kid who can tackle well or who can shoot a good three-pointer or whatever isn't enough, and I've got to do the extra. Well, that extra is usually the mental side of it. It's the confidence to be able to look across from a guy that you're going up against and know that not only am I a better athlete than you, but mentally you're not going to break me down. And that doesn't just happen overnight. That happens from training your mind and realizing that the second you start to feel you're becoming mediocre, that you do something to fix it.
Right. So reassess where you're at and what you want to accomplish,
exactly.
and aim a little bit higher than where you're at.
Yeah.
Anything from your standpoint in other facets of the mental game that individuals can work on or should work on to really maximize their potential? How does that play into what your philosophy, I guess,
one of the
about
things
training?
One of the things we talk about a lot here with the kids that train is understanding that there's only two things you can control, and that's your effort and your attitude.
Exactly.
When you get in a game and it's windy and it's cold outside, you can't control that. You can't stop it. It's going to be windy and it's going to be cold. You can control how you let it affect your attitude. Are you going to let that get your focus off of throwing a strike on the next pitch or your assignment on the field, or and then is that going to in return affect your effort? Or are you going to realize, hey, I can't control that, so I'm going to stay focused on what the job is at hand, keep my attitude positive, I'm still playing, right? I still have a chance to win this game, and then give the effort, maybe more effort is needed if you're playing in a bad element. If you're playing a basketball game and you got a parent yelling at you, you probably can't control that somebody on the other team screaming at you or yelling at you, that you're, but you can control how do I let it affect my effort and my attitude. Now that's easier said than done, and that's where the mental skills comes into it, because there are techniques I'm sure that you work with athletes on how to block off those types of things.
Yeah, I actually talking about focus in.
Yeah.
Focus in on, like you said, what's the job at hand, what's most important, and when you do that, the other stuff goes away.
Yeah.
You don't need to spend time trying to block stuff out. Just focus in on what it is you want to do. And I love your point too about attitude, because what I always say is attitude is a decision, and I call it control the controllables.
Yeah.
If you can start recognizing, well, wait, this is happening, I can't control it. What can I control? My attitude, how hard I'm going to work, and what I'm going to do to help my team win. Well, it's just a huge point.
I've told you that story before that I think you've used, and when I was in college, on having my mind at one point so off of what the job at hand was that after walking a batter, a second or third guy in a row, I could actually hear the cleats of the bullpen getting warmed up. I could hear the guy hopping up and running on the concrete and the catcher running with him to head out and get loose, and I didn't even have to look over there to know the guy that's getting ready to come in and replace me is now up to getting loose. And so my head was so far out of what was, instead of realizing, hey, I can't control that I just walked that guy, I can control my effort and attitude, because hey, if this guy hits this guy maybe hits into a double play, I'm out of the inning and no harm done. Instead, I make the problem worse by worrying about what's the coach thinking or who's up getting loose, and and I can't remember the game. I'm sure I you know, I hope I didn't make it worse, and I hope I got out of the inning, but maybe I walked the next guy. I don't know.
But what's important is that you were really focused. You were just focused on the wrong things.
Oh, yeah.
And what's interesting though is we talk about, you know, being in control of yourself and what's going on, and then what's your plan, and trusting in that. And that's such a huge message for me, and it sounds like for you, understanding how those things play into it, and what it works. But anything else you'd like to say? I really appreciate your time and all you do to.
No, I just think it's important that these kids understand, and these parents, you know, who are paying money for their sons or daughters to get specialized training or performance training or private lessons, all the stuff that thousands of dollars that are being spent on making your child athletically, physically better, is that take advantage of when your son is hitting that jump shot that he wasn't hitting 3 months ago and he's confident in it, that you use that to your advantage to teach him that mentally now when he goes into a game, he needs to think, I'm better than this guy.
Yes.
I can handle that. I can hit this shot. And that positive self-talk and that mental imagery and all that stuff, I've put in the work. I've paid the price, right? I've done the work now. I'm not mediocre. And let that carry over to telling you that I can beat this guy and I can hit this shot at the end of the game, and get all those doubts that you never think you're going to miss it, you know. But that comes through training yourself to think that way.
Right. You have to work on it just as you work on dribbling and shooting and pitching and catching, whatever it is. You have to work on those things during practice. And so I really appreciate your comments. And you know, the folks are hitting my website on mental-edge-sports.com. Awesome. I appreciate that you take this time out, and
it's great
appreciate
work.
all you do.
Thanks, man.
Dustin, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.